It was an ordinary Thursday morning in Silicon Valley, but inside the high-end conference hall, everything felt electrified. A wave of anticipation hung in the air as the most brilliant minds in tech gathered for the annual Tech Innovators Summit. A room full of industry giants, venture capitalists, and scientists who had changed the world sat quietly, their eyes fixed on the stage. The keynote speaker of the event, none other than Elon Musk, was scheduled to deliver a groundbreaking address about the future of space exploration, sustainable energy, and artificial intelligence. His presence alone commanded attention. People whispered excitedly among themselves, eager to hear what the billionaire genius had in store. Just as Elon stepped up to the microphone, preparing to launch into a familiar talk about his latest projects, a voice interrupted the room's hushed silence. "I have a solution," came the voice, clear and certain, from somewhere in the front row. Elon froze. A murmur spread through the crowd, and people began to turn their heads, looking toward the source of the interruption. A young girl, no older than 10, was standing at the front of the stage, her small hand raised high like a flag. Dressed in a simple t-shirt, jeans, and sneakers, she didn't look like someone who belonged at such a prestigious event. Her ponytail swayed slightly as she adjusted her glasses, and she met Elon's gaze with unwavering confidence. The crowd was stunned into silence. Had a child really just interrupted the keynote address? And who was she, anyway? Elon raised an eyebrow, curious despite himself. "And what might your solution be, young lady?" he asked, his voice calm but laced with a hint of amusement. Without hesitation, the girl stepped forward, her confidence more intense than anyone would expect from someone so young. "My name is Lily Parker," she began, her voice steady. "I'm here to present a new way of integrating AI into sustainable energy systems. It's a method that uses machine learning algorithms to improve energy efficiency by over 30%, and I've already tested it in a prototype that works flawlessly." The words came out in a rush, but there was no uncertainty in her tone. No doubt in her mind. Lily spoke with the kind of confidence that you'd expect from someone decades older, someone who had spent years honing their craft. Elon, initially taken aback, leaned forward slightly, intrigued. He'd heard many big claims at this conference over the years, often from people much older, much more experienced. But this? This was something entirely different. He glanced at the audience, whose expressions ranged from disbelief to curiosity. The room buzzed with whispers as people exchanged skeptical glances. How could a 10-year-old have possibly developed something that could revolutionize energy systems? Yet, there was something in Lily's eyes, something undeniable, that made even Elon Musk pause. The audience murmured, but before anyone could say anything, Lily continued. "I know you all are skeptical," she said, her tone never faltering. "But if you give me the opportunity to demonstrate it, I'm confident it will change how we think about energy production and consumption." A ripple of laughter passed through the crowd. Someone muttered, "This is a joke, right?" Lily's face remained unchanged. She wasn't playing for laughs. She wasn't asking for validation. She simply wanted to be heard. Elon's curiosity piqued, and he shot a quick glance at the conference organizers, who seemed just as bewildered as everyone else. Without breaking eye contact with Lily, Elon spoke again, his voice taking on a slightly more serious tone. "All right, Lily," he said, a slight smile playing at the corner of his lips. "Impressive claim. Why don't we make this interesting? You can present your solution here, today, and we'll see if it holds any water. I'll even offer you a chance to work with one of my engineers if your idea is truly as groundbreaking as you say." The crowd went quiet. People were on the edge of their seats, eagerly awaiting her response. Was she really going to challenge the world's most successful entrepreneur like this? The weight of Elon's words hung in the air, and it seemed like the entire world was watching. Lily didn't hesitate. She simply nodded. "I accept," she said, her voice unwavering. "Let's show them." With that, the organizers scrambled to make space for the impromptu demonstration. The room was now completely silent, save for the occasional shuffle of papers or the murmur of excitement among the crowd. Elon watched with a mix of amusement and growing intrigue. This was no ordinary child, this was someone with real ambition, someone who dared to challenge the status quo. Lily pulled out a small device from her backpack, a sleek black tablet that looked deceptively simple. She connected it to a projector, and the screen lit up with a series of diagrams and code. As she explained the concept, Elon's interest deepened. Lily described how her AI-based system could optimize energy grids in real time, adjusting power usage based on data collected from local weather patterns, electricity demand, and even human behavior. The machine learning algorithms could predict fluctuations and adjust accordingly, ensuring that energy waste was minimized and efficiency maximized. The room remained completely silent as Lily continued, her words flowing like she had been doing this for years. The confidence in her voice was mesmerizing. There were no stutters, no pauses, no uncertainty. She was in her element. When she finished her presentation, she glanced up at Elon. His gaze was fixed on her, his mind clearly working through the possibilities she had laid out. "Impressive," he finally said. "But I have to ask, you're only 10. How is it that you came up with this?" Lily smiled slightly, a look of pride creeping into her eyes. "I've been working on this for years. My dad's a former NASA engineer, and he's been teaching me how to think about problems differently. I've always loved technology, and I've always wanted to make a real impact." Elon raised an eyebrow. "A NASA engineer, huh? That explains a lot." The audience had been holding its breath, but now they erupted into applause. Some clapped politely, others stood up in shock, while a few exchanged glances as if trying to wrap their heads around what had just happened. Elon, still standing, was the first to break the silence. He extended his hand to Lily. "All right, kid. You've got my attention. Let's see if you can truly change the world." The crowd erupted into cheers, and a ripple of excitement swept through the room. Lily had done the unthinkable. She had not only interrupted Elon Musk's keynote address but had also convinced him that she was onto something truly revolutionary. As the applause continued, Lily turned to the audience, her eyes bright with determination. This was just the beginning. And the journey that lay ahead would change everything. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Lily Parker had always been different. Ever since she could remember, her world had been one of codes, equations, and machines. While other kids were playing with toys, Lily was tearing apart old computers to understand how they worked. She'd been fascinated by technology since she was barely able to walk, and the thirst for knowledge had only intensified with age. But she was more than just a child prodigy, she was a force of nature, someone who saw problems and immediately sought to solve them. She was the daughter of Dr. Samuel Parker, a former NASA engineer and now an expert in artificial intelligence, and Emily Parker, a brilliant data scientist working for a cutting-edge AI startup. Her home was filled with books, blueprints, and the soft hum of various machines in different stages of construction. Her parents were both accomplished in their fields, but it was their relentless belief in their daughter's potential that made all the difference. As a young child, Lily had often spent hours in her father's workshop, watching him work on complex engineering projects. Dr. Parker wasn't just an engineer, he was a mentor. He saw the spark in Lily from the moment she started showing an interest in his work. He encouraged her curiosity, even when it meant pausing a critical project just to explain the finer points of quantum mechanics to his 8-year-old daughter. There was no question too silly, no idea too far-fetched. But it wasn't just about the tech for Lily, it was about making a real impact. She didn't just want to create something cool, she wanted to change the world. And that was what her father taught her, to think not just about what was possible, but what was needed. She had grown up in the shadow of greatness, but that didn't mean she was immune to the struggles of being different. Lily didn't have many friends her age. The other kids at school couldn't relate to her interests, and often, they made fun of her for being the nerd or the weird girl who talks to robots. They didn't understand her passion, and it hurt. But she never let it hold her back. When the taunts got too loud, she would retreat to the quiet solace of her bedroom, where she would lose herself in coding languages, books on artificial intelligence, and her own ambitious dreams. But the more she built, the more she saw how the world around her was failing. Energy systems were inefficient. Climate change was a growing threat. And there was so much untapped potential in the way AI could transform entire industries. It was one of those sleepless nights in her room when the idea came to her: what if she could use AI to revolutionize the way energy was produced and consumed? What if there was a way to make energy grids not only more efficient but also more adaptable? A system that could learn, grow, and optimize in real time? And what if, with the right technology, this could be the first step toward creating a sustainable future for everyone? Lily didn't sleep that night. She worked for hours, scribbling equations and drawing diagrams on scraps of paper, her mind racing faster than she could write. By morning, she had something. It wasn't just a half-baked idea, it was a plan. A blueprint for an AI-driven energy optimization system that could save millions of dollars, reduce carbon emissions, and ensure energy resources were distributed more efficiently. She couldn't have been more excited. But she knew, deep down, that she couldn't do it alone. She needed validation, she needed someone who understood the tech world, someone who had the clout to take her seriously. That was when she made the decision that would change everything. She would present her idea at the Tech Innovators Summit. Lily's parents had always encouraged her to follow her passions, even if they led her into uncharted waters. But when she told her dad about her plan to disrupt the biggest names in tech, he was cautious. "Lily, this is a huge step," he warned her. "You're going to be stepping into a room full of experts, people who have decades of experience. They might not take you seriously." Lily just smiled, determination in her eyes. "If my idea is good enough, they will listen." Her father sighed but couldn't help but feel proud of her confidence. "All right, then. Let's make sure you're prepared." Over the next few weeks, Lily worked tirelessly, perfecting her prototype and rehearsing her pitch. Her father helped her fine-tune the technical details, while her mother provided guidance on how to present herself to the most discerning tech minds. They knew this could be her one shot. And they weren't going to let her waste it. On the day of the summit, Lily felt a mixture of excitement and nerves. The conference hall buzzed with energy as she walked in, her heart pounding in her chest. She felt out of place among the sea of suits and ties, but that didn't stop her. Her invention was real, and it was going to change the world. When Elon Musk entered the room, she almost forgot to breathe. She had read about him, followed his work for years, but seeing him in person was something else entirely. The man who had launched rockets to Mars, revolutionized electric cars, and dared to challenge the status quo, he was right there, sitting just a few rows ahead of her. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. This was her moment. As the session began, she sat quietly in the back, listening to the talks, nodding along, but her mind was always on the task ahead. She had to be perfect. Then came the moment she had been preparing for. Elon stepped onto the stage, ready to begin his keynote speech. The room fell silent, every eye focused on him. That's when it happened. Without warning, Lily stood up, her small figure making its way to the front of the stage. She didn't ask for permission. She didn't hesitate. She was there with one purpose in mind, to share her idea with the world. The conference hall erupted into confusion. Was this some sort of joke? A child interrupting the keynote? But Lily wasn't joking. She was there to show them what she had created. What she was capable of. And, more importantly, what the future of technology could look like. Elon Musk raised an eyebrow as she walked to the front, his initial surprise quickly turning into a spark of intrigue. He hadn't seen this coming, but there was something about Lily Parker that made him pause. This wasn't some child with a silly idea. This was someone who had the potential to change everything. The room was still, but the energy had shifted. There was no going back now. Lily had just made her mark. The room was in complete chaos. The air was thick with disbelief, and the hum of murmuring voices filled every corner of the conference hall. People exchanged glances, some shaking their heads in confusion, while others were openly laughing. A 10-year-old girl had just interrupted Elon Musk's keynote address and boldly declared that she had a solution to revolutionize the way the world consumed energy. Elon Musk, however, was not laughing. Instead, his sharp eyes remained focused on Lily Parker, the young genius who had boldly made her presence known in front of a room full of Silicon Valley's brightest minds. His mind was already processing the implications of what she had said. Energy efficiency improvements using AI was no small claim. In fact, it was a colossal one. Despite the chaos around her, Lily stood with her back straight and her hands clasped in front of her, unwavering. She was confident, but she wasn't cocky. She knew her idea was groundbreaking. Her entire life had led her to this moment, and there was no turning back now. She wasn't here to impress anyone. She was here to prove that age was just a number when it came to making an impact. The audience slowly began to quiet, curiosity replacing skepticism. Elon Musk cleared his throat, his voice calm yet authoritative. "All right, let's hear it. Let's see if your solution holds up to scrutiny." There was an edge of challenge in his words, but it wasn't harsh, more like a test, a trial by fire. Lily took a deep breath, her fingers brushing against the tablet she had brought with her. The projector clicked on, and the large screen behind her illuminated with diagrams and complex code. The crowd, still unsure of what to expect, leaned forward in their seats as Lily began her presentation. "I've designed an AI system capable of dynamically adjusting energy grids in real time. The system collects data from various sources, weather patterns, power consumption, human behavior, and uses machine learning to optimize energy distribution," she began, her voice clear and steady. "By adapting to changing conditions in real time, we can reduce energy waste, lower costs, and make our energy systems more sustainable." The room was silent as Lily navigated through her slides, outlining the specifics of how her algorithm could predict power demands, adjust energy supply, and even optimize the storage and distribution of renewable energy sources. She explained how the system could learn from patterns in data, adapt, and continue improving without human intervention. Elon listened intently, his expression unreadable. The other attendees were equally captivated. They could tell that Lily wasn't simply reading from a script. She was living and breathing her idea. There was no hesitation in her words, no second-guessing of her explanations. She was, without a doubt, the most confident person in the room. When she finished, she gave a slight nod and looked up at Elon. "This prototype has already been tested in a small-scale system. It works. I'm confident that with the right resources, we could scale it up and implement it in cities worldwide." The audience remained quiet for a few moments, processing the enormity of what they had just heard. The implications of Lily's idea were staggering. If her AI-driven system worked as claimed, it could revolutionize the entire energy industry. It could lower global carbon emissions, cut down on energy waste, and make renewable energy sources more viable. It was the kind of solution that people had been dreaming of for years, but it came from the mind of a child, one with no formal training, no professional credentials, just raw talent and relentless determination. Elon leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers in front of him as he took a moment to consider her words. The skepticism that had initially colored his thoughts had shifted to curiosity, and now he felt the stirrings of admiration. He had seen his fair share of ambitious proposals, but this one was different. This one had the potential to change the world. "Well," Elon began, breaking the silence. "You've got my attention, Lily." He stood up, extending his hand toward her. Let's see what you can do with this. If what you've shown us today is for real, then we need to talk about how we can make it happen. The crowd erupted into applause, some standing up in disbelief, others cheering with genuine excitement. It was as if they had just witnessed history in the making. The young girl who had interrupted Elon Musk's speech wasn't just some child with a wild dream, she was a genius, someone who had just presented a solution that could change the course of humanity's future. Lily, however, didn't seem fazed by the applause. She simply smiled, a small, proud grin, and shook Elon's hand. "Thank you. I'm looking forward to what we can do together." As the applause slowly died down, Lily turned to the side, where her parents were standing in awe. Her father, Dr. Samuel Parker, had been silently observing the entire interaction, his eyes shining with pride. Emily Parker, Lily's mother, had a similar expression, one of quiet amazement mixed with a deep sense of satisfaction. They had known Lily was capable of great things, but seeing her present her idea to the world like this, was beyond anything they could have imagined. But the journey was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Later that day, after the summit had concluded, Elon Musk invited Lily to meet him privately. They sat in a small conference room, just the two of them, as Elon began to ask more technical questions about her AI system. He was impressed by her understanding of the complexities involved, and he was eager to see how her solution could fit into his own vision of a sustainable future. "Tell me more about how this could integrate with existing infrastructure," Elon asked, his voice thoughtful. "You're talking about a system that would need to work seamlessly with current power grids. How do you plan to bridge that gap?" Lily thought for a moment before responding. "The system is designed to be adaptable. It's not a complete overhaul of existing infrastructure, it's an enhancement. The AI learns and adapts, so it can integrate with current grids without needing a total redesign. It's modular, scalable, and can be applied to different regions depending on their specific needs." Elon nodded, clearly impressed by her level of thoughtfulness. "You've thought this through," he said. "I think we might have something here." The conversation continued for hours, with Elon offering suggestions, asking more questions, and exploring the possibilities of turning Lily's idea into reality. By the time the meeting was over, it was clear that Elon Musk had seen something extraordinary in this young girl. He wasn't just impressed by her intellect, he was inspired by her vision. As Lily walked out of the room, she felt a surge of excitement. This was just the beginning, but the road ahead was filled with endless possibilities. She had taken the first step toward changing the world. And nothing, not even her age, could stand in her way. The next few weeks felt like a whirlwind. Lily Parker's life had been turned upside down, but in the best way possible. After her unexpected presentation at the Tech Innovators Summit, she had become a sensation. The press had picked up on her story, and her face was plastered on tech blogs, news outlets, and social media. Some people called her the AI prodigy, while others dubbed her the future of energy. But for Lily, the attention was both thrilling and overwhelming. She wasn't used to the spotlight. She had always been content tinkering with her machines in the quiet solitude of her room. But now, she was thrust into a world of executives, investors, and tech giants, all of whom were eager to learn more about her groundbreaking AI-driven energy system. Through it all, Elon Musk was a constant presence in her life. Over the past few weeks, he had personally mentored her, helping her refine her idea and introducing her to people who could make it a reality. He had even invited her to SpaceX's headquarters, where she had the opportunity to meet some of the brightest minds in technology and engineering. It was surreal for Lily to walk through the same halls where rockets were being built, where dreams of colonizing Mars were becoming a reality. But amid all the excitement, Lily knew that the hardest part was yet to come. Turning her idea into a fully functional, scalable system would require more than just technical expertise, it would require resources, funding, and support. And that's where Elon's influence came in. Elon had already started putting together a team of experts who would help Lily bring her vision to life. He'd called in the best engineers, data scientists, and even environmental policy experts to collaborate on making Lily's AI system a reality. But there was one more thing Elon had promised her, a meeting with the board of Tesla. The board was an intimidating group. They were the ones who had the power to greenlight major projects, and Elon had been working hard to convince them that Lily's energy optimization system was worth the investment. But getting their approval wouldn't be easy. Tesla had been focusing heavily on electric vehicles, solar energy, and battery storage solutions, and Lily's idea was something entirely different. It was uncharted territory. Still, Elon believed in her. And now, so did she. The day of the meeting arrived, and Lily felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she walked into the sleek, modern boardroom. She had never been in a room like this before, one filled with powerful people who held the future of technology in their hands. Elon was there, standing at the head of the table, his usual confident demeanor in place. But even he seemed to be taking a more measured approach as the board members filed in. Lily took her seat, glancing around the room at the serious faces of Tesla's board members. They were all experienced professionals, executives with decades of success under their belts. It was hard to imagine that they were looking at a 10-year-old girl and seeing the future of energy. But Elon had told her to believe in herself. He had told her that her idea was powerful enough to change the world. The meeting began with Elon introducing Lily to the group. He spoke highly of her, outlining the potential of her AI system to optimize energy grids in real time. The board members listened attentively, but there was a palpable air of skepticism. After all, it wasn't every day that a child walked into a room and proposed a solution to one of the world's biggest problems. Then, it was Lily's turn. She stood up, her hands slightly trembling, but her voice steady. She wasn't nervous. She knew that this was her chance to make them understand. "Thank you for your time today," Lily began, meeting the gaze of each board member. "I know that my system might sound ambitious. It's not just about reducing waste or lowering energy costs, it's about reshaping the future of how we power the world. I'm not asking you to take a leap of faith. I'm asking you to join me in something that could change everything." She paused, letting her words sink in. She could feel the weight of their eyes on her, but she didn't flinch. She had practiced this presentation countless times in front of her parents, and now it was her moment to shine. She dove into the technical details of the AI system again, explaining how it could integrate with existing infrastructure, how it used predictive analytics to adjust energy supply, and how it could revolutionize industries beyond just energy. She spoke with passion, her eyes alight with excitement as she described the potential for improving the global power grid, reducing carbon footprints, and unlocking new possibilities for sustainable energy production. As she spoke, something unexpected happened. The board members, initially distant and skeptical, began to lean in. They asked her questions about scalability, safety, and implementation. They were no longer treating her like a child, they were treating her like the visionary she was. Elon watched the interaction with quiet satisfaction. He knew Lily was capable of captivating any audience. But it was more than that, she wasn't just presenting an idea, she was challenging them to think differently about the future. After the meeting, Elon and Lily walked out of the boardroom together, the door closing behind them. Elon looked down at Lily, his expression unreadable. "Well, that went better than I expected," he said with a grin. "I think they're on board." Lily couldn't hide her excitement. "Really? You think they'll approve it?" "I think so," Elon said. "But it's not just about getting their approval now. You've got to be ready for the hard work ahead. This is just the beginning. You're going to have to prove yourself every step of the way." Lily nodded, feeling a sense of both excitement and responsibility wash over her. She had always known this journey would be difficult, but now, more than ever, she understood what it would take to see her dream realized. It wasn't just about being a genius, it was about perseverance, determination, and the courage to keep going even when things got tough. And if there was one thing Lily Parker knew how to do, it was push forward. The next phase of Lily's journey was far from smooth. While the excitement of securing the board's approval was still fresh in her mind, the reality of what lay ahead was beginning to set in. It wasn't just about having a great idea, it was about executing it. And that was where the real challenge began. Elon Musk had made it clear that the road ahead would require hard work and relentless focus. The support from Tesla's board was a victory, yes, but it was just the beginning. Lily had been thrust into a world that moved at breakneck speed. There were countless meetings, technical sessions, and calls with engineers and data scientists who would help transform her concept into a working prototype. It was overwhelming. But Lily thrived under pressure. She had been preparing for this moment for most of her life, and now that she had a chance to make a real difference, she wasn't about to let anything stand in her way. Yet, despite her excitement, there were days when the weight of the project felt unbearable. The technical hurdles were enormous. Every step forward seemed to bring a new challenge, whether it was fine-tuning the AI's predictive capabilities, ensuring the system could work seamlessly with existing infrastructure, or dealing with unforeseen data issues. It was the kind of pressure that could break even the most seasoned professionals. But Lily was determined not to back down. One evening, as she sat at her desk in the quiet of her home office, the glow of her computer screen lighting up the room, Lily found herself staring at a string of code that just wouldn't work. She had been working on the same issue for hours, trying to get the algorithm to respond correctly to the fluctuating data sets, but it was refusing to cooperate. Frustration simmered beneath her calm exterior. Her parents were in the living room, talking quietly, but she barely noticed. She had become consumed by her work. It was late, and she knew she needed to get some rest, but she couldn't let go of the problem. She typed a few more lines of code, but it didn't work. She hit the desk with her fist in frustration, taking a deep breath. A few moments later, her father, Dr. Samuel Parker, appeared at her door. He stood there for a moment, watching her before speaking gently, "Lily, you need to rest. It's important to step away sometimes and come back with fresh eyes." Lily didn't look up immediately, her mind still tangled in the code. "I can't stop now, Dad. This is the key to everything. If I can't get this right, everything else will fall apart." Dr. Parker walked over and sat down next to her. "I know how much this means to you. But remember, even the greatest minds have to take breaks. The solution might be just around the corner, but you can't see it if you're exhausted." Lily hesitated. She knew he was right. Deep down, she felt the weight of the project growing heavier every day. She had to make this work, not just for herself, but for the world. Yet, there was so much at stake. The pressure was immense. "I just don't want to let anyone down," she admitted quietly, her voice trembling slightly. Her father placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone in this, Lily. You've got people who believe in you, and you've already done something no one thought possible. Take a step back, get some sleep, and you'll see the problem in a new light tomorrow. You've always had the ability to solve problems, you just need a little rest." Lily nodded, trying to push the nagging feeling of doubt aside. She wasn't used to feeling like this, vulnerable, uncertain. But she trusted her father's advice. Sometimes, the greatest breakthroughs came when you weren't actively searching for them. The next morning, after a good night's sleep, Lily woke up with a new sense of clarity. As she sat down at her computer, she took a deep breath and analyzed the code once more. She realized that the problem wasn't with the algorithm itself, but with the way it was interpreting certain data points. With a few adjustments, she fixed the issue, and the system responded as expected. She smiled to herself, the weight on her shoulders lifting for the first time in days. It was a small victory, but it was a step forward. And it reminded her that while the path ahead was uncertain and filled with challenges, it was also filled with possibilities. As the weeks passed, more and more pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The technical team was making significant progress on integrating the system with Tesla's existing energy infrastructure. They were testing the AI-driven grid in a small-scale trial in a nearby city, adjusting parameters and fine-tuning the system based on real-world data. But the pressure never fully went away. Lily often found herself working late into the night, analyzing results, revising code, and discussing new ideas with Elon and the team. The future of her project rested on her ability to continue pushing forward, even when the challenges seemed insurmountable. At the same time, Lily was also becoming more aware of the stakes involved. This wasn't just a project, it was a movement. The world was watching, waiting to see if the young girl's bold vision could become reality. It wasn't just about optimizing energy, it was about proving that innovation could come from anywhere, that anyone, regardless of age or background, could make a difference. One evening, as Lily sat in her room, poring over the latest data set, she received an unexpected call. It was Elon Musk. "Hey, Lily," he greeted her warmly. "I've been reviewing the progress on the AI system, and I think we're ready for the next step. Are you up for a challenge?" Lily's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "I think it's time we test this system on a much larger scale," Elon said, his tone serious. "We've got a project coming up in a few months, and if your system works the way we think it will, it could change the energy industry forever." Lily felt a rush of excitement, but also a twinge of nervousness. "Are you sure? This is huge. If something goes wrong..." Elon interrupted her, his voice steady and confident. "We're sure. But remember, this is what you've been working for. We've got your back. It's time to take it to the next level." Lily took a deep breath. This was it, the moment she had been working for. The stakes were higher than ever, but she was ready. She couldn't let fear hold her back. This was her chance to prove that her vision wasn't just a dream, it was the future. And so, Lily Parker took her first step toward changing the world. The anticipation in the air was almost palpable. After weeks of meticulous planning and development, Lily Parker's AI energy optimization system was about to face its first real test. It was no longer a theoretical concept or a small-scale prototype, this was the moment when everything would either succeed or fail on a much larger scale. Elon Musk's words echoed in her mind, "We've got your back." But despite the reassurance, the weight of the challenge was immense. Lily was no longer just an 11-year-old genius with a brilliant idea. She was now the face of a technological revolution, one that had the potential to disrupt entire industries. For the next phase, Tesla had selected a medium-sized city, Oak Ridge, California, as the test location for Lily's energy system. The city's energy grid was an ideal candidate for optimization, given the city's mix of old infrastructure and growing demand for sustainable energy solutions. It was the perfect environment to put Lily's system to the test. The pressure was high. Elon had placed his faith in Lily, and now, she had to deliver. Lily stood at the center of the Oak Ridge City control room, surrounded by engineers, technicians, and the occasional press representative. The room was abuzz with activity as everyone made final preparations for the test. The large screen in front of her displayed a live feed of the city's energy grid, with complex data points flashing across the screen. "Everything looks good," one of the engineers said, his eyes glued to the screen. "All systems are green. Ready to launch when you are." Lily swallowed, her heart racing in her chest. She had spent countless hours refining the system, and this was the moment it all came together. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the responsibility settle on her shoulders. Elon, who had flown in to oversee the test, stood beside her, offering a reassuring smile. "You've got this, Lily. Just remember what we've talked about. Trust the system." Lily nodded, her hand steady as she clicked a button on her tablet, initiating the first phase of the test. The data on the screen began to shift as her AI system took control of the energy grid, analyzing consumption patterns, adjusting supply levels, and predicting energy demands in real time. For the first few minutes, everything seemed to be going smoothly. The system was working just as it had in the simulations. The grid was stabilizing, energy usage was being optimized, and the flow of power to the city's residents was being managed more efficiently than ever before. Then, without warning, an alarm blared through the control room. "Wait, what's happening?" one of the engineers exclaimed, his eyes scanning the screens frantically. Lily's stomach dropped. She knew that the system was still in its infancy, but she had hoped it would be flawless from the start. Her mind raced as she quickly reviewed the data on her tablet, trying to pinpoint the cause of the issue. "Something's wrong with the data input," Lily murmured. "The consumption predictions are off. It looks like the system miscalculated energy demand for one of the sectors." Elon leaned over her shoulder, studying the data. "Is it a catastrophic failure, or can we fix it?" Lily shook her head. "I think it's fixable. The system is misinterpreting a spike in usage in Sector 4. I can correct it manually." Elon's face softened. "Take your time. There's no rush." Lily quickly began typing commands into the tablet, instructing the AI system to recalculate the energy requirements for that particular sector. She adjusted the parameters, double-checked the data inputs, and watched as the numbers began to shift in real time. The minutes felt like hours. Every second that passed felt like a test of her ability to keep calm under pressure. She could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on her, waiting for her to fix the problem. The pressure of the world felt like it was bearing down on her small shoulders. And then, just as suddenly as it had gone wrong, the system stabilized. The alarm stopped. The data points returned to normal. The energy grid was back on track. Lily exhaled in relief, her heart rate slowing. She glanced over at Elon, who was smiling. "Well done, Lily," he said, his voice filled with genuine pride. "You handled that like a pro." Lily couldn't help but smile back. "Thanks. I wasn't sure if I was going to get it in time." "You did more than just fix it," Elon continued. "You identified the problem, understood why it happened, and corrected it all on your own. That's the mark of a true innovator." As the test continued, there were other minor glitches to resolve, but nothing that came close to the intensity of the initial issue. With each fix, Lily grew more confident. The AI system was learning and adapting as it operated, improving with every correction. By the end of the day, the system had successfully optimized the entire city's energy grid. The team reviewed the results, and everyone was in agreement: the test had been a resounding success. Lily felt a rush of triumph as she watched the final data. It wasn't perfect, there was still work to be done, more fine-tuning and optimization needed, but the potential was undeniable. This was just the beginning. As the team began to pack up and prepare for the debriefing, Elon came over to her again, this time with a more serious expression. "You know, Lily," he said quietly, "you've done something incredible here. But the road ahead is going to get even harder. We're not just testing technology, we're changing the way the world thinks about energy. And that will come with opposition." Lily met his gaze, her determination unwavering. "I know. But I'm ready. This is only the first step." Elon smiled. "I wouldn't expect anything less from you." The success of the Oak Ridge test marked a turning point in Lily Parker's journey. What had begun as a small-scale trial was now gaining attention. The media, tech enthusiasts, and industry leaders were beginning to take notice of the young girl who had, against all odds, revolutionized the way energy grids could be optimized. Within a matter of days, the news of the test results spread like wildfire. Headlines from major publications screamed, "Teen prodigy optimizes energy grid using AI," and, "Is this the future of sustainable power?" But Lily was cautious. While she had always dreamed of making an impact on the world, she hadn't expected the world to be watching her so closely. The pressure intensified. More meetings, more media requests, more expectations. Every move she made was scrutinized, analyzed, and dissected. And while the recognition was flattering, it came with its own set of challenges. People wanted answers, big answers. They wanted to know if her system could truly scale to other cities, if it could make a dent in the global energy crisis, if it could be implemented worldwide. But Lily wasn't ready to answer those questions just yet. She knew the journey wasn't over. It was just beginning. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Lily found herself in her bedroom, sitting at her desk, lost in thought. Her computer screen was filled with charts, data sets, and projections from the Oak Ridge test. The numbers were impressive, but something felt incomplete. She was so close, but not quite there. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her trance. It was a text from Elon. Meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Be ready to discuss next steps for scaling. There's a lot of interest from the big players. Time to go global. Lily's heart skipped a beat. The idea of going global was exhilarating, but also terrifying. Could her system really handle the complexities of an entire country, let alone the world? The pressure of it all was starting to feel heavier, and the reality of what was at stake was beginning to hit her. She stared at the text for a moment longer before setting the phone down on her desk. She needed a break. With a sigh, she leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. It was then that she remembered the last time she had felt this uncertain. It was years ago, when she first learned how to code. At the time, she had been an outcast, a kid who was too smart for her own good, too focused on her passion to fit in with the other kids her age. But coding had given her something more than just technical skills, it had given her a sense of purpose. It had given her the ability to create, to solve problems, and to think differently. Her mind drifted back to a conversation she had had with her mother, Lily's biggest supporter, when she was much younger. You don't have to be like everyone else, Lily. You just have to be yourself. The world will catch up to you, her mother had said. That memory was the reminder Lily needed. She wasn't just doing this for recognition, for accolades, or for validation. She was doing this because she believed in her vision, in the power of technology to make the world a better place. If others wanted to join her on this journey, great. But she couldn't let their expectations determine her path. With renewed determination, Lily opened her eyes and reached for her phone. She texted Elon back, "I'm ready." The next morning, Lily arrived at Tesla's headquarters early. As she walked through the sleek, glass-paneled building, she could feel the weight of the moment pressing in on her. Every step seemed to echo with the significance of the decisions that would be made today. Elon was already in the conference room, a whiteboard behind him filled with complex equations and flowcharts. He looked up as Lily entered and gave her a nod of acknowledgement. "Morning, Lily. Glad you could make it," Elon said, motioning for her to take a seat. Lily sat down, her mind racing with thoughts about the future. She had no idea what would happen in the next few hours, but she was ready to face whatever came her way. "All right, everyone," Elon began, addressing the group of engineers, project managers, and investors gathered around the table. "Lily's system has shown incredible promise, and now we're looking at the next step. The question is, how do we scale this technology?" He turned to Lily. "We're looking at potential partnerships with governments and major energy companies. We need to figure out if this system can handle entire regions, not just cities. And we need a plan for how to roll it out to millions of people. What do you think?" Lily took a deep breath. It was time to step up. "I think it's possible," she said, her voice steady. "But we need to start by making sure the system is adaptable. Every city, every country, has different energy needs, and we can't take a one-size-fits-all approach. The system has to learn from its environment, adapt to new data, and constantly optimize. We also need to ensure that it's secure, sensitive data needs to be protected at all costs." Elon smiled, clearly impressed. "Exactly. We're going to have to work closely with local authorities and companies to understand their unique challenges. But you're right, this has to be scalable and secure. And that's why we have you. Lily felt a sense of pride wash over her. She was no longer just a kid with an idea. She was leading the charge on something that could truly change the world. But as much as the prospect of global change excited her, Lily knew that it was going to take time. It would take careful planning, hard work, and countless adjustments. As the meeting continued, the team brainstormed potential approaches for scaling Lily's system. They discussed everything from collaborating with international power grids to leveraging AI in developing countries with unreliable infrastructure. But there was one thing they all agreed on: this wasn't just a tech project. It was a revolution in how the world approached energy. By the end of the meeting, they had a roadmap, a plan for taking Lily's system to the next level. But Lily couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. It wasn't about the technology, it was about the people. Could the world handle this change? Would they accept it? As she walked out of the room, Elon caught up to her. "You did great today," he said. "But remember, the journey's only just begun. Don't let the pressure get to you. Stay focused, and we'll make this work." Lily nodded, trying to ignore the growing sense of doubt creeping into her mind. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: there was no turning back now. Lily Parker hadn't anticipated just how quickly the world would react to her energy optimization system. What had been a promising success in Oak Ridge was now being thrust into the global spotlight. She felt the weight of this newfound fame, but it was not the recognition that worried her, it was the challenges that came with it. It was one thing to optimize an energy grid for a small city, but it was an entirely different beast to scale that solution for entire nations. Every country had different infrastructure, policies, and political landscapes that could either speed up or completely derail her dream. 2 weeks after the Oak Ridge test, Lily found herself once again in a high-stakes meeting, this time with global investors, government representatives, and energy executives from around the world. It felt surreal to be sitting at the table with people who had the power to change the world. Her thoughts raced, but she kept her cool as she listened to the discussions around her. "Elon, Lily, we've reviewed the data, and the system works well for cities, but we're concerned about the scalability of this project. Some regions have old, inefficient grids. Others have more advanced infrastructure. Can Lily's system adapt to such diverse environments?" a prominent investor asked, his voice deep and skeptical. Lily's palms began to sweat. She had expected questions about scalability, but not so soon, and certainly not with such doubt. "Elon, I believe the system can adapt," Lily said, her voice steady despite the nerves racing through her. "We've designed it to be modular. It learns from the data it gathers and adjusts accordingly. In places with outdated infrastructure, the system will prioritize cost-effective solutions, while in more modern grids, it will work to maximize efficiency and minimize waste." The investor raised an eyebrow. "And what about security? You're dealing with critical infrastructure. A hack could bring an entire city to its knees." This was the concern Lily had anticipated. The more advanced the technology, the more vulnerable it became to malicious attacks. She had been working on a security layer, but it wasn't foolproof yet. It was an ongoing project, one that her team had not had the time to fully implement. "Elon and I are in the process of implementing military-grade encryption and real-time threat monitoring," Lily said, trying to sound confident. "But I agree, security is something that requires constant attention, and we're already building that layer into every phase of deployment." The room was quiet for a moment, the weight of the concerns hanging in the air. Elon, sensing the tension, leaned forward and interjected. "Lily's system is not just software, it's a learning, adaptive network. Just like any new technology, there will be challenges, but I believe in its potential. And more importantly, I believe in Lily. We are working tirelessly to address every concern and build the infrastructure necessary to protect it. But we need your support to move forward." The investors exchanged glances, some nodding thoughtfully, others still uncertain. There was a moment of silence before another voice spoke up, a government official from the European Union. Can we ensure that this system will not only optimize energy usage but also contribute to our renewable energy goals? We need to be sure that it aligns with the global push for sustainability, she asked, her voice measured but firm. Lily smiled internally. This was a question she had been waiting for. It was one of the reasons she had embarked on this project in the first place, to help the world transition to cleaner, more sustainable energy. The system is designed with sustainability in mind, Lily said, her confidence growing. It can integrate with solar, wind, and other renewable sources to ensure that energy production is not just optimized for efficiency, but for environmental impact. It can also help reduce reliance on fossil fuels by predicting and optimizing energy storage, ensuring that renewable energy can be used when and where it's needed most. The room seemed to come alive at this. The European official nodded, clearly impressed, and a few other people at the table murmured in approval. But even as Lily felt a surge of hope, she knew that the biggest challenge was still ahead. The real test wasn't convincing these people, it was proving that her system could deliver on its promises. And the first test of that would come sooner than she expected. Later that evening, after the meeting adjourned, Elon caught up with Lily as she walked out of the conference room. "You did great in there," Elon said, his tone lighter than usual. "You handled the pressure like a pro. But you know the toughest part is still to come. We've got a lot of people who are still skeptical. We need to show them we can make this work, not just talk about it." Lily nodded. "I know. But I believe in the system. And I believe in its ability to change the world. It's just, there's a lot of pressure now. I feel like I'm carrying the weight of the entire future of energy on my shoulders." Elon smiled and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're not carrying it alone, Lily. We're all in this together. And trust me, the world needs this kind of change more than you realize. But you've got to stay focused. Don't let the weight of others' doubts distract you. You've already accomplished what most people couldn't even dream of." Lily smiled faintly. She wanted to believe him. But as the days passed and the pressure mounted, she couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get a lot harder. Lily Parker had always believed in the power of innovation to change the world. She knew that in order to achieve something truly revolutionary, there would always be resistance. But the weight of the backlash that was now building against her technology, was something she hadn't anticipated. A few weeks after the high-stakes meeting with investors and government officials, the first signs of public pushback began to surface. At first, it was a whisper, a few naysayers on social media questioning the feasibility of her AI system. But as the days went on, the whispers turned into a roar. Headlines began appearing in major media outlets: "Is AI really the answer to our energy crisis? Teen Prodigy's energy solution could spell disaster," and "The dangers of putting our power grid in the hands of a child." Lily had faced criticism before, every innovator did, but this felt different. The tone was not just skeptical, it was hostile. Experts were speaking out, claiming that such an advanced, untested system was too risky. Some feared that if Lily's system were scaled too quickly, it could create more problems than it solved. Others, especially those in the traditional energy sectors, were concerned that her technology would disrupt their industries. They painted her as an arrogant child, someone who had no place trying to change a system that had been in place for over a century. "Isn't it dangerous to trust such an important part of our infrastructure to an 11-year-old, one prominent tech analyst asked on a popular news show. "We need experienced adults making decisions, not someone who hasn't even graduated middle school." The more she saw these attacks, the harder it became to ignore them. Lily's heart sank as she scrolled through her social media feed, filled with harsh comments and articles questioning her intelligence, her intentions, and her abilities. Even some of the people she had worked with were now expressing doubts, afraid that the system wasn't ready for a global rollout. "Lily," Elon said, walking into her office one morning with a grim expression. "We need to talk. I've been getting calls from several of our partners and investors. They're nervous. Lily nodded, not surprised. She had known this moment would come, but it didn't make it any easier to deal with. I've seen it, she said quietly. I don't understand. Why are they questioning me now? Elon pulled up a chair and sat down across from her. It's not just about you. It's about the technology. People are scared. The energy industry has been stable for a long time, and this system of yours, it's shaking things up. A lot of people are uncomfortable with that. Lily bit her lip. But I've worked so hard on this. I know it works. It's not perfect, but it can change everything. Why can't they see that? They're afraid of change, Elon said, his voice soft but firm. And when people are afraid, they react in ways that may seem irrational. We can't let that stop us, though. The key is to stay focused and keep moving forward. But we'll need to address these concerns head-on, and fast. If we don't, this thing could spiral out of control. Elon's words were both comforting and terrifying. She had come so far, but now it felt as if the world was turning against her. Later that afternoon, the team gathered in the boardroom for an emergency meeting. Elon, Lily, and several key players from Tesla and other partners sat around the large table. Tension hung in the air like a thick fog. We can't ignore the media storm, Elon said, his voice low but urgent. People are starting to question whether we're rushing this. We need a clear response, something that shows we're taking these concerns seriously. Lily took a deep breath, steeling herself for the confrontation ahead. I understand the concerns. This system is new, and it's risky. But it's also the future. The energy crisis isn't going away, and if we wait too long, it will only get worse. I don't have all the answers, but I know that this is the right step forward. The room was silent as everyone processed her words. Then, one of the investors spoke up, his voice cautious. But Lily, you have to understand that the world isn't ready for something this disruptive. If you want us to move forward, we need more than just your belief in the system. We need hard data, security protocols, proof that your system can work on a global scale. Lily's mind raced. She had been so focused on the big picture, the potential of her technology, that she hadn't fully prepared for the kind of scrutiny it would face at this scale. Now, with the pressure mounting, she realized that she had to prove her system's worth beyond just her passion. I can do that, she said, her voice steady. We'll run more tests, address security concerns, and provide more data. I'll make sure this system is bulletproof. We'll prove it. Elon nodded in approval. That's the spirit, Lily. We need to take this challenge head-on. And remember, no one succeeds without setbacks. You've already done something incredible, now it's time to show the world why it matters. The meeting ended on a more optimistic note, but Lily couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much bigger battle. She had her work cut out for her, and the next few weeks would be critical. The world was watching, and if she was going to make it, she would have to push through the noise and prove that her system was more than just a brilliant idea. It had to work. As the days went by, Lily and her team worked tirelessly to refine the system. They conducted additional tests, ran simulations, and worked on building a more robust security framework. Elon and the others put their faith in her, offering guidance and support, but the ultimate burden of proof rested on her shoulders. Late one evening, as Lily sat in her lab, reviewing test results and making final adjustments, she received a message from her mother. Hey, kiddo, I know things are tough right now. But don't let the critics get to you. Remember why you started this. The world will always be full of people who doubt you. But the ones who matter will always have your back. Keep going. Lily smiled softly. Her mother had always known what to say to make her feel better. But now, more than ever, Lily had to remind herself of her purpose. She wasn't just trying to prove people wrong, she was trying to prove that a better future was possible. And that was worth fighting for. The next few weeks were a blur. Lily's life became a constant cycle of meetings, late-night coding sessions, and phone calls with Elon. Every moment was consumed with refining the energy optimization system. They had already run multiple tests, gathered as much data as they could, and worked tirelessly to enhance the security features. But the public backlash continued to grow. More media outlets joined in, fueling the skepticism. The investors' anxiety increased, and some even questioned whether they should pull back from the project entirely. Lily spent long hours in her lab, staring at the screens filled with data, struggling to find the perfect formula that would prove the world wrong. The pressure was immense. Every failure seemed like a personal attack, and the growing doubts from all sides felt suffocating. One evening, after another round of tests had failed, Lily sat slumped in her chair, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. The soft hum of the servers was the only sound in the room. Her mind raced, but her thoughts felt like a tangled mess. She had come so far, yet the world seemed so determined to tear her down. Just as she was about to give in to frustration, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Elon. "Meet me in 10 minutes. I think we have a breakthrough." Her heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Was it possible that, after all the setbacks, they were finally on the verge of success? She grabbed her jacket, left her lab, and hurried to Elon's office. When Lily entered, she found Elon pacing in front of a large screen, his expression more animated than she'd seen in weeks. "Lily. I think we've got it," he said, his voice tinged with excitement. "Look at this." He tapped a few keys, and the screen displayed a new simulation model. The energy grid they had been working on was no longer just stable, it was thriving. The system had optimized energy usage in real time, balancing both renewable and non-renewable sources effortlessly, predicting energy demand with impressive accuracy. Lily's heart raced as she examined the data. This was more than just an improvement, it was revolutionary. "Wait, this is incredible." "But how?" Elon grinned. "It turns out the missing piece was a deeper level of predictive AI integration. By applying machine learning to the historical energy patterns, the system is now able to adjust the grid before fluctuations even occur. And we've added an additional layer of redundancy for security. It's foolproof." Lily's mind raced as she absorbed the implications. This was what they had been working toward. This was the key to silencing the doubters and proving to the world that her vision was not just possible, but necessary. But there was one more problem to solve. The security concerns had not disappeared. Elon's solution had improved the system's robustness, but there were still people who would never trust an AI-powered system to manage critical infrastructure. Lily knew they needed something more than just technical brilliance. They needed to show the world the human side of the project, the heart and soul of what they were trying to accomplish. "We need to tell our story," Lily said, her voice firm with newfound determination. "We've been so focused on the tech, we haven't shown the world why this matters. They need to understand why we're doing this. It's not just about energy, it's about the future of our planet." Elon paused, considering her words. "You're right. We've been so focused on the mechanics, we've forgotten the bigger picture. But how do we tell that story? It's not just about convincing investors or governments. It's about the people." Lily smiled. "I think it's time to get personal." The following week, Lily and Elon put their plan into action. They set up a live-streamed event, broadcasting it to millions of viewers worldwide. Elon would take the stage first, sharing his own journey, the challenges he had faced, and why he believed in Lily's technology. Then, it would be Lily's turn to speak. The event was held in a large auditorium, but it felt intimate, almost like a conversation. The lights dimmed, and Elon walked out onto the stage. He began by recounting his own childhood, the failures he had encountered, and the doubts that had been cast upon him throughout his career. He spoke about the importance of believing in something greater than oneself and how, at the heart of every great innovation, there was a spark of hope, a belief that things could be better. Then it was Lily's turn. She stepped onto the stage, her nerves making her hands tremble slightly, but her determination kept her grounded. She addressed the audience directly, speaking from the heart. For as long as I can remember, I've been fascinated by energy. I've seen the world's resources stretched thin, and I've felt the weight of knowing that something needs to change. But I didn't want to just create a system, I wanted to create a solution. A solution that could give every person, every community, the opportunity to live more sustainably and efficiently. This system, my system, can change the way we power our world. It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction. And it's something we all need. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle in. I've spent years working on this, and I've faced a lot of doubt. But I'm here to tell you that no matter how many people question you, no matter how many obstacles stand in your way, it's worth fighting for. Because the future we want is possible, but only if we believe in it enough to make it happen. The auditorium fell silent. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the crowd began to clap, first hesitantly, then with increasing enthusiasm. The energy in the room shifted. Lily had done it. She had shown the world not just the technical genius behind her system, but the heart and soul of why it mattered. As the event came to a close, the media coverage exploded. The backlash began to quiet down, replaced by a wave of support. People rallied behind Lily, not just as a genius inventor, but as someone who cared deeply about the future of the planet. The project wasn't perfect. There were still hurdles to overcome, and plenty of work to do. But Lily knew that this was her turning point. With Elon's help, and the world watching, there was no going back now. She was ready to change the world. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The ripple effect of Lily's live-streamed event spread faster than anyone had anticipated. The social media platforms exploded with support, and mainstream news outlets began covering her story in a completely new light. The backlash from earlier was still present, but now there was a counter-movement, a group of supporters who were just as vocal in their belief in her potential. Lily, once dismissed as a child prodigy, was now viewed as an inspiring force for change. However, with the positive momentum came even more pressure. The task was no longer just to build the energy system, it was to prove it could work on a global scale. Investors, world leaders, and tech experts were watching closely, and they wanted results, not promises. Elon, seeing the urgency of the situation, called Lily one morning. We need a proof of concept. Something real, something that will make everyone believe in what you're doing. Lily took a deep breath. She had always known the importance of proving her system's potential, but the reality of it was daunting. She had designed the system to handle specific, localized energy needs, but what Elon was asking for was something bigger, a fully integrated, real-world test. There's a small town in Texas, Fayetteville, Elon continued. It has an aging power grid and limited access to renewable energy. It's the perfect place to test this. If it works there, we'll have the leverage we need to take it global. Lily felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Fayetteville was a small town, with a population of just under 3,000 people. The thought of her technology being tested in a real, public setting was nerve-wracking. But she knew this was the kind of challenge that would define her journey. I'll need the full team for this. And I'll need more time to prepare, Lily replied, her voice steady despite the nerves. Elon didn't hesitate. We'll make it happen. Time to show the world what you're made of. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The team mobilized quickly, packing up all the necessary equipment, arranging travel, and ensuring they had everything in place for the Fayetteville test. But even as the logistics fell into place, Lily's mind couldn't escape the weight of the task ahead. She knew that the success of this test could launch her system into the global spotlight, but failure could spell disaster, not only for her technology but for her career and her reputation. Every hour she spent working was weighed down with the burden of proving herself. As the day of departure arrived, Elon met with her in her lab. "You've done great work, Lily. This is your moment. Don't let anyone, yourself included, tell you that you can't do this. You're ready." Lily nodded, her heart swelling with a mix of gratitude and fear. She had never felt so ready for something and yet so terrified at the same time. The journey to Fayetteville was long, but once they arrived, the small town felt both welcoming and intimidating. People from the town gathered in the local community center to hear what this young genius had in store for them. Some were excited, others were skeptical. The media buzzed around her, capturing every moment. In this small town, Lily was about to become the most important person in the room. The testing site was set up on the outskirts of Fayetteville. It was a small power station that had been in operation for decades, but it had become increasingly unreliable in recent years. The goal was simple: implement Lily's energy system and see if it could efficiently manage both the town's renewable and non-renewable energy sources. "Everything set," Elon said, looking over the equipment and the power grid setup. "You ready?" Lily swallowed hard. "I think so." The team gathered around as she began to input the necessary commands into the system. The room was quiet except for the hum of the machines and the low murmur of the media crew. The tension in the air was palpable. For a few moments, nothing happened. Then, the screen in front of Lily flickered, and the system began to process data. The first test was simple: integrating solar energy from the newly installed panels into the grid. The second test was a bit more complex: stabilizing the grid when a sudden spike in energy demand hit due to an unexpected surge in local industry. Lily held her breath as the numbers rolled across the screen. Come on," she muttered under her breath, her fingers flying over the keyboard, ensuring everything was correct. A small beep echoed through the room. The system had detected the spike and was compensating, adjusting the grid's output without issue. The lights in the community center flickered once, and then everything stabilized. The first test was a success. The second test followed shortly after. Lily input the commands, and once again, the system handled the data efficiently, adjusting as it should. "Is it working?" Elon asked, his eyes locked on the screens. "It's working," Lily said, a huge grin forming on her face. The crowd, which had been skeptical at first, erupted into applause. News cameras flashed, and Lily felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over her. For the first time in weeks, it felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off her shoulders. But just as she allowed herself to savor the moment, a man from the local council stood up, his face hard. "This is impressive, but we've got more questions. What about security? What about the potential risks of relying on AI for our energy infrastructure?" Lily took a deep breath. She had known this moment would come, the inevitable question of safety and risk. But she was ready. "We've designed the system with multiple layers of security. It's built to predict and react to potential failures before they can happen. And we've ensured that there's always a manual override in case of an emergency. We've tested every part of the system rigorously. This is the future, but it's also safe and reliable." The man narrowed his eyes. "And what happens if something goes wrong? What if the system fails?" Lily felt the eyes of the crowd on her, and the weight of the question pressed against her chest. But she didn't back down. "Nothing is perfect," she said, her voice calm and steady. "But if we never take risks, we'll never progress. I'm confident in this system because it's designed to adapt. If something goes wrong, it'll correct itself. And if it can't, we'll fix it. Together." The room fell silent, and for a moment, Lily wasn't sure how the crowd would react. But then, a small murmur of approval began. Slowly, people nodded, and the skepticism in the room began to fade. Elon placed a hand on her shoulder. You did it, kiddo. You proved yourself. As the day wore on, the town's residents began to believe in her vision. They saw the potential for a future powered by sustainable energy, and the fear that had clouded their minds slowly lifted. Lily had done it. She had taken her technology from an idea to reality, and she had earned the trust of the people who needed it most. But this was just the beginning. The world was watching, and now, the next phase of her journey would begin. After the successful trial in Fayetteville, Lily's world changed. The media was abuzz with stories of her breakthrough, with many praising her ingenuity and perseverance. Investors who had previously been hesitant now flooded Elon and Lily's teams with offers of partnership. Tech magazines ran cover stories, and her name became synonymous with innovation. But with success came even greater expectations. In the weeks following the Fayetteville test, Lily found herself on planes, traveling to meet with governments, investors, and major energy companies around the globe. Each meeting was more demanding than the last. Everyone wanted a piece of the technology, everyone wanted to be the first to implement it, and everyone had their own vision of how it should work. Some saw it as a tool to dominate the market, others as a way to solve energy crises. And in all the chaos, Lily began to feel the pressure mounting. As she sat on another long flight, her thoughts weighed heavily on her. There was so much to be done. But where should she focus first? She had to make decisions that would affect millions of lives, and she couldn't afford to make the wrong one. The road ahead was filled with both endless possibilities and hidden dangers. One evening, after an exhausting day of meetings, Lily found herself alone in her hotel room. The room was quiet, with only the distant hum of city traffic seeping through the window. Her phone buzzed, and she glanced at it. It was a message from Elon. We need to talk. I think we're about to face a storm. Let's meet tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Be ready. Lily's stomach twisted. Elon's messages were typically concise, but this one carried a different weight. She knew something was coming, something big. The next morning, Lily arrived at Elon's office in Palo Alto, finding him pacing as he stared out the window. The tense energy in the room was palpable. What's going on, Elon? She asked, trying to read his expression. Elon turned, his face serious. It's the government. The federal regulators have started scrutinizing our project. They're concerned about the power we'll have once the system is up and running. They want assurances, control over our technology. Lily's heart sank. The last thing she wanted was government intervention, especially when they had just proved the system could work. She crossed her arms, trying to hold back her frustration. But we've already shown it works. The people of Fayetteville saw it, the world saw it. What more do they want? It's not about the system itself, Elon said, pacing again. It's about the potential to disrupt the entire energy market. They don't trust the fact that we're essentially handing control of the grid to an AI. They want safeguards, they want oversight, and they want to ensure no one can monopolize the technology. Lily's mind raced. The idea of being shackled by government regulations felt suffocating. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and now her innovation was being threatened by bureaucracy. Is this something we can work around? She asked. Can we find a middle ground? Elon looked at her, his expression softening. We can try, but it's going to be a battle. They're going to want a seat at the table, and they'll try to dictate the terms. Lily exhaled slowly. She wasn't one to back down easily, but this was different. The stakes were much higher now. It wasn't just about proving her technology worked, it was about navigating the murky waters of government regulation and political power. The following weeks were filled with tense negotiations. Lily found herself in countless meetings with government officials, each one more taxing than the last. She had to convince them that the system wasn't just a tool for financial gain, but a necessary advancement in technology that could help solve the world's energy problems. They, on the other hand, pushed for safeguards, oversight committees, and an array of regulations that Lily knew would slow down the rollout. The struggle was frustrating. As the project grew in importance, so did the voices of opposition. Environmental activists who had once supported her were now voicing concerns about the environmental impacts of such large-scale AI systems. Energy companies that had once been eager to adopt the technology were now hesitant, worried about losing control over their profits. Lily spent sleepless nights drafting proposals and refining her arguments. She had to maintain a delicate balance, convincing the government that her system was safe while keeping the tech companies and activists on her side. During one particularly late night, Elon called her. "I'm hearing a lot of conflicting opinions about this. But I think you know what we need to do," he said. Lily rubbed her eyes, exhausted from the long day of negotiations. "What do you mean?" "Eliminate the middlemen," Elon replied. "It's time to take control back." Lily was silent for a moment, weighing his words. The idea of bypassing traditional channels and going directly to the people was risky, but it also had potential. She could cut through the bureaucracy, take the power back, and convince the world that the system was safe and viable, without waiting for the government's approval. "I think I know what you're suggesting," Lily said finally. "We go public. Let the people decide." "That's right," Elon said. "We'll launch a global campaign, show the world the benefits of what we've built. If we can prove that people want it, need it, then the governments won't have much choice but to follow." Lily felt a surge of determination rise within her. This could be the game-changer she'd been looking for. If she could gather public support, she might be able to force the hand of regulators and tech companies alike. "Let's do it," Lily said. "It's time to go straight to the people." The campaign began almost immediately. Lily and Elon launched a global initiative, with the slogan, "Power to the People, a future we can build together." They used social media platforms, tech blogs, and live-streamed events to engage with the public directly. Lily spoke passionately about the importance of sustainable energy, the power of technology, and the need for collaboration. They held Q&A sessions, answered concerns, and provided transparent updates on the project's progress. The response was overwhelming. People from around the world rallied behind the cause. There was a collective shift in sentiment as people began to understand the potential impact of the system. As the support grew, so did the pressure on governments and energy companies. They couldn't ignore the will of the people. But with this new wave of public support came new challenges. Lily had to navigate the fine line between empowering the people and maintaining control over her invention. There were risks in moving too fast, risks that could derail everything she had worked for. Yet, she knew there was no turning back. This was her fight. This was the moment that would determine not only the future of her technology but the future of the world's energy systems. And she wasn't about to lose. Lily's public campaign was gaining traction faster than she ever anticipated. The hashtag Power to the People trended worldwide, with millions of people rallying behind her mission for a sustainable, AI-powered future. Social media influencers, celebrities, and activists alike began to endorse the technology. It felt like a wave of momentum was building, and the world was ready for change. But as her support base grew, so did the resistance. Powerful corporate giants, many with ties to traditional energy sectors, began to see Lily's project as a direct threat to their bottom line. The pressure intensified from every side, and Lily knew the stakes were higher than ever. The conversation was no longer just about technology, it was about power, control, and the future of the energy industry. Lily stood at a crossroads. Her invention was no longer just a tool for progress, it had become the epicenter of a political and economic battle. As she reviewed the latest data coming in from her team, she saw that the regulatory bodies were beginning to cave under the pressure. The government had not outright rejected her system, but it was clear they were now leaning toward implementing restrictive measures that could slow down the global rollout. Elon's phone call came late that evening. "We've got a problem," he said, his voice tinged with urgency. "Some of the world's largest energy companies are lobbying for stricter regulations, ones that would slow down or completely halt your system's deployment. They've started making moves to control the narrative." Lily clenched her jaw, frustrated. She had known this day would come, the moment when her breakthrough would start threatening the status quo. "What are they saying?" "They're saying that AI-driven systems for energy management are too risky, that it's untested on such a large scale. They're pushing the argument that too much control in the hands of a single AI could lead to catastrophic failures. And now, there's pressure from some governments to introduce national security measures around the system." Lily's heart sank. National security? That's just a smokescreen to keep control of the energy market. "Exactly," Elon replied. "But we're at a tipping point now. If we don't act fast, we could lose the chance to move forward with this. The political and corporate interests are starting to close in." Lily knew she had to act quickly, but how? She had already won the hearts and minds of millions, but she was up against forces far more powerful than she had ever imagined. She needed to find a way to turn this situation to her advantage. The next morning, Lily convened a meeting with her core team. They gathered in her office, their faces lined with exhaustion, but also determination. They were in the middle of the storm, and it was unclear which direction the winds would blow. "We need to hit back," Lily said, standing in front of her whiteboard. "Elon's right. We're being cornered. But if we back down now, we lose everything we've fought for. So, we need to go on the offensive." Her team exchanged uncertain glances. "What do you mean?" asked Zoe, one of the lead engineers on the project. "I mean we need to put the pressure back on them. We need to prove that this is not just a technological leap, it's a revolution. We're not just talking about AI and renewable energy. We're talking about giving people the power to control their future. We need to go bigger." Lily's eyes scanned the room. She could see the gears turning in the minds of her team members. They were all in this together, and they trusted her judgment. "We need to show the world what's at stake," she continued. "We need to organize a massive live demonstration. Let's show the world what the system can do on the largest scale possible, before they have a chance to restrict it." The idea was risky, but it was the kind of bold move Lily had come to expect from herself. She wasn't going to let the corporate giants and government regulators dictate her future. It was time to take back control and put the system to the ultimate test. Over the next few weeks, Lily's team worked tirelessly to prepare for the demonstration. They chose a site, a massive, energy-hungry city in California, that would showcase the system's power on an unprecedented scale. The city of Los Angeles, with its sprawling infrastructure and complex energy grid, would be the perfect test case. They set up multiple solar fields, wind farms, and battery storage systems across the city, all tied into her AI-driven energy management system. The goal was to show that the system could not only handle massive amounts of renewable energy but also integrate with the traditional grid to ensure a stable, reliable power supply. Lily knew that the stakes were higher than ever. If this demonstration succeeded, it would give her the leverage she needed to push back against the corporate interests and regulators. But if it failed, it could spell the end of her vision, and perhaps even her career. The day of the demonstration arrived. It was a warm, clear day in Los Angeles, and the eyes of the world were watching. Live streams were set up across social media platforms, and news outlets broadcasted the event live. Lily stood backstage, staring out at the vast expanse of the city, her heart racing with anticipation. Elon approached, giving her a reassuring smile. "Ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Lily replied, trying to steady her nerves. The demonstration began with a live feed showing the current energy demand of the city. Lily's system was up and running, and the renewable energy sources were feeding power into the grid. The system was designed to automatically adjust to fluctuations in demand, balancing renewable energy with traditional energy sources as needed. As the day wore on, the system faced a variety of challenges. The energy demand surged during peak hours, and Lily's AI system adjusted the supply with remarkable precision. The crowd watching from the live stream could see the numbers in real time, and it was clear that the system was working flawlessly. But then, at the height of the demonstration, the unthinkable happened. A massive power surge hit the city from an unexpected source, a malfunction in a traditional energy plant. The grid went haywire, threatening to overload the entire city's power infrastructure. The audience gasped in collective horror. But Lily didn't panic. She was already on her computer, eyes scanning the data as she issued new commands. The AI system quickly adapted, rerouting power, shutting down non-essential systems, and isolating the malfunction from the main grid. Within seconds, the crisis was averted, and the power grid stabilized. The audience erupted in applause. The system had passed its most challenging test yet, and the world had seen it firsthand. But as the demonstration ended and the cameras turned off, Lily knew that the battle was far from over. Corporate interests would fight back, and governments would continue to question her system's security and control. The forces aligned against her were powerful, but Lily had proven something crucial that day: her system could handle the pressure. The tipping point had come, and there was no turning back now. Lily had always known the road to revolutionizing the energy industry wouldn't be smooth, but the backlash after the Los Angeles demonstration came faster and fiercer than she anticipated. For every cheering supporter, there was an equal, or greater, number of detractors. The corporate energy giants, the ones whose power was directly threatened by Lily's AI-driven grid, immediately launched a full-scale counteroffensive. Newspaper headlines screamed about the dangers of putting too much control into an AI system. "Unproven technology risks our power," read one headline. Another warned, "Is the future of our energy too much for one AI to handle?" The regulatory bodies that had been cautiously observing the situation began to take a more active stance. Calls for more stringent security measures and oversight grew louder. Legislators and government officials began drafting bills to slow down the adoption of AI technology in critical infrastructure, citing potential security risks and the need for more comprehensive testing. The media frenzy became overwhelming. While many outlets lauded the success of the demonstration, others raised alarm bells. Tech forums and news blogs ran articles filled with warnings about the risks of centralized control over the energy grid. Some experts questioned whether such a system could be hacked or manipulated. Others debated whether it would be susceptible to catastrophic failures, should there be an error in the AI's decision-making. It seemed the tides were turning against Lily, and her social media accounts began to fill with accusations, doubts, and criticism. Once sympathetic voices started to question her motives. Some accused her of being naive, others of being reckless. One viral tweet called her the self-appointed queen of the grid, questioning her judgment and the true intentions behind the project. As the negative press continued to mount, Lily's phone buzzed with messages. Some were from friends, offering support. Others were from investors, expressing concern. And then there were the calls from government officials, some sympathetic to her cause, others clearly trying to rein her in. Elon called her in the middle of it all. "Lily, I've seen the headlines," Elon said, his voice terse. "We knew this would happen. We've got to control the narrative before it spirals." Lily leaned back in her chair, staring out the window at the busy streets of Palo Alto. "It's worse than I thought. The backlash is brutal. They're even questioning the system's security now." "They're scared," Elon replied. "Scared of losing control. But we can't let them make us second-guess everything. We need to fight back and keep pushing forward." Lily thought for a moment. Elon was right. They had come too far to back down now. She had built something revolutionary, and the world needed it. But the forces arrayed against her were powerful. The question was, how would she fight back? That afternoon, Lily met with her communications team to strategize their next move. They needed to rebuild the narrative, regain public trust, and neutralize the growing wave of fear surrounding the AI system. We need to show the world that we're not just about technology, Lily said, addressing her team. We need to remind people why this project matters. It's not just about innovation, it's about making sure everyone has access to clean, affordable energy. We're fighting for the planet, for sustainability, and for the future. Let's use that as our core message. Her team immediately sprang into action. They drafted press releases, penned op-eds, and launched a new social media campaign centered around the long-term benefits of the system: reliable renewable energy, lower emissions, and a more resilient global infrastructure. They showcased testimonials from cities already benefiting from the technology, like Fayetteville, and highlighted how the AI grid had minimized power outages and optimized energy usage in ways that were previously unimaginable. But no matter how many positive stories they told, the criticism continued. They were up against some of the world's most influential players in the energy sector, and they would stop at nothing to protect their interests. Lily's inbox filled with reports of lobbyists working behind the scenes to put pressure on regulators, casting doubt on the AI's effectiveness and safety. Corporate leaders whispered that the AI was too much of a black box to be trusted. They questioned whether a single entity, albeit a highly advanced AI, should control the flow of power across an entire country, much less the world. One afternoon, as Lily sat at her desk, staring at the mounting pile of emails and reports, she heard a soft knock on her office door. It was Zoe, the lead engineer, with a serious expression on her face. "Lily, we've got a problem," Zoe said, closing the door behind her. Lily looked up, alarmed. "What is it?" "There's been a security breach," Zoe said, her voice tight with urgency. "Someone attempted to hack into the system. The breach was small, but it's enough to raise a red flag." Lily's heart skipped a beat. A hack. After everything they had been through, this was the last thing they needed. "How did it happen?" Lily asked, standing up and walking over to the computer where Zoe had pulled up the security logs. "We're still investigating," Zoe replied. "It looks like it came from an external source, likely a rival company or someone with access to sensitive information. But the system is secure, and no data was compromised." "That's a relief," Lily said, though she could hear the undertone of concern in her voice. "But this could be the thing they use against us." "It could be," Zoe said, nodding. "But the breach was minor. Our security protocols are holding up." Lily nodded, trying to calm herself. They couldn't afford to let the public know about the breach, it would be the perfect ammunition for her critics. But she also knew that if she didn't act quickly, this situation could spiral out of control. The hackers might try again, and they might not be as successful this time. "We need to tighten security," Lily said firmly. "And we need to get ahead of this. If anyone finds out about the breach, it's going to make all the headlines." Zoe agreed. "I'll get the team on it right away." As Zoe left, Lily took a deep breath, staring at the screen in front of her. There was a storm brewing, one she hadn't anticipated. It seemed that every step forward was met with an equal or greater pushback. But giving up was not an option. The stakes had only gotten higher, and she couldn't afford to lose now. She grabbed her phone and typed a quick message to Elon. "We need to talk. They're coming at us from all sides." This just got a lot harder. It was a fight on all fronts now: corporate interests, government pressure, and cyber threats. But Lily wasn't about to back down. Not now, not ever. The following days were a blur for Lily. The pressure from all sides had become unbearable, and yet, she knew that there was no turning back. With the hacking attempt fresh in her mind, she decided to step up her game. She would not just play defense, she would take the fight to the people who were trying to tear everything down. But even as she plotted her next move, there was something unsettling in the air. The morning after Zoe had informed her about the breach, Lily held an emergency meeting with her leadership team. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone on the inside was involved. The timing of the hack felt deliberate. She trusted her team, but the threat seemed closer to home than they had realized. "Do you think this was just a random attack?" Lily asked, her voice low but steady as she scanned the room, looking for any signs of doubt. Elon, who had flown in from Texas to consult, crossed his arms and looked around thoughtfully. "I don't think it's a coincidence. Someone has insider knowledge, whether it's someone within the company or someone close to your operations. We need to find out who's behind this before it happens again." Lily's stomach turned at the thought. She had spent so much time focusing on the external forces, corporations, governments, and public opinion, that she had let her guard down when it came to her own team. She realized she couldn't afford to do that anymore. "I want you all to review everything," Lily said, standing up and walking to the whiteboard. "Every line of code, every communication, every contract. I need to know if there's anyone here who might be working against us." The room fell silent. Her team exchanged uneasy glances, their faces a mixture of concern and uncertainty. It wasn't that they didn't trust each other, it was just that the stakes had become so high that anything felt possible now. "I'll get on it," Zoe said, breaking the silence. "I'll have the team comb through the logs and audit the system for any weaknesses. We'll trace everything." "I'm going to talk to security," Elon added. "This needs to be tightened up immediately. If this is an inside job, we can't afford to wait." Lily nodded, trying to quell the unease that gnawed at her. As the team began to scatter to handle their tasks, she remained in the room, staring at the whiteboard. Each word she had written earlier in the week now felt like a fragile promise. How could she ever finish this if the people closest to her were sabotaging the very project that was meant to change the world? A few days later, her suspicions began to be confirmed. Zoe called Lily into her office, her face pale. "We found something," Zoe said, handing over a tablet. On the screen were encrypted logs that led to an anonymous IP address, a location within the company's own internal network. Lily's breath caught. "This isn't good. Who is it?" "I'm not sure yet. But the IP address is tracing back to someone in your inner circle. Someone with admin-level access." Lily's mind raced as she tried to piece it together. The enemy wasn't just external, it was internal. And whoever was behind it had knowledge of the system's architecture, its weaknesses, and its potential vulnerabilities. "It could be anyone," Zoe added, her voice strained. "We're looking into every employee, every contractor who has been involved in this project. We need to be certain before we confront anyone." Lily nodded, feeling a lump rise in her throat. She couldn't believe it. The idea that someone she trusted might be working against her was a bitter pill to swallow. "Don't confront anyone yet," Lily said, her voice steady. "We need to find out who it is and why they're doing this. If we go in too soon, we risk tipping them off." As the investigation continued, the pressure on Lily only grew. The media frenzy surrounding her AI-powered energy system had reached a fever pitch. Some outlets were now casting her as a reckless visionary, while others painted her as the messiah who could save the planet. But Lily knew that the storm was coming, and she needed to act quickly before it swept her and her project away. One morning, she received a call from one of her investors. It was a deal she had hoped would provide the financial backing they needed to push the project forward, but the tone of the call made her nervous. "Lily, we've been following the situation closely," the investor said, sounding distant. "We're concerned about the risks surrounding your system. Given the backlash, we're pulling out." Lily felt a pit form in her stomach. "What do you mean you're pulling out? You promised to support this project." I know. But the investors are getting cold feet. There's too much uncertainty surrounding the system, and the political and corporate forces against you are just too strong. We can't afford to take that kind of risk." Lily's heart raced as she tried to keep her composure. "This is the future we're talking about. Renewable energy, powered by AI. You knew what you were getting into when you invested. I understand, Lily, the investor said gently, but the financial landscape has changed. We can't afford to back something this volatile right now. I'm sorry. The call ended, and Lily felt like the ground had been ripped out from under her. She had just lost one of her major backers. With the press piling on and the hacking attempt just the tip of the iceberg, she knew it was only a matter of time before the rest followed suit. She needed to act quickly. If she was going to keep this project alive, she couldn't rely on investors who were so easily swayed. She had to go directly to the people. She had to prove that the technology wasn't just a corporate product, it was a tool for the masses. That night, Lily sat down with her team and Elon, strategizing her next move. It's time for a direct message to the public, she said. I can't let the narrative be hijacked by corporate interests and politicians. We need to remind people why we're doing this in the first place. Zoe looked up. What are you thinking? I'm going live, Lily said. I'll make an unfiltered speech directly to the people. No corporate filters, no PR department. Just me and my vision. I'm going to lay out exactly what we're fighting for and why we're not backing down. Elon smiled, a rare expression of approval. It's risky, but if anyone can do it, it's you. The people want honesty. They want to know that this is about more than just technology, it's about their future. Lily stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the city as the weight of the decision settled in. This was her moment. If she didn't take control of the narrative now, it could all slip away. She took a deep breath and turned back to face her team. We're not backing down. We're just getting started. The days leading up to the live broadcast were a blur of preparation. Lily knew this was her moment, her chance to directly connect with the public, to fight back against the corporate giants and naysayers, and to tell her side of the story. But the stakes had never been higher, and the weight of the responsibility felt heavier than ever. She spent hours with her team, rehearsing her speech, fine-tuning every word. There could be no mistakes. The pressure was immense, but she knew that if she was going to pull this off, she needed to remain calm and focused. No distractions, no second-guessing. Elon stood by her side, offering words of encouragement. You've got this, Lily. People are waiting for someone to show them the truth. This is your chance to make that happen. Despite his words, Lily couldn't help but feel the weight of the world on her shoulders. If this broadcast went wrong, it could be the end of everything she had worked for. But if it went right, it could change everything. The evening of the broadcast arrived, and Lily sat in front of the cameras, her nerves barely contained. The studio was silent, save for the hum of equipment and the distant shuffle of her team making final adjustments. She was dressed in a simple, yet elegant outfit, something that felt authentic to who she was. The countdown began, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, Lily began, her voice steady but firm. My name is Lily Park, and I am the founder of the Renewable Grid Initiative. Tonight, I want to speak directly to you, the people who matter most in this journey. She paused for a moment, scanning the camera as if she were looking into the eyes of each viewer at home. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about all of them, those who stood to benefit from a cleaner, more sustainable world. I've spent the last several years working with a team of brilliant engineers, scientists, and technologists to create an AI-powered energy system that could transform how we generate and distribute power. The system is designed to harness the power of renewable energy like never before, creating a grid that is not only more efficient but more resilient to the challenges we face in the future. She took a breath and continued, her voice growing more passionate. But what we've seen over the past few months, what I've experienced firsthand, is something I never expected. We've encountered resistance, not from the people, but from those who profit from the status quo, the big energy companies, the political powers that be, and even the media. They've tried to scare you, to tell you that this technology is too dangerous, too unpredictable. But what they're really scared of is losing control. The camera zoomed in slightly, emphasizing the sincerity in her eyes. Lily could feel her heart racing, but her resolve was unwavering. They've tried to discredit me, to make you doubt that what we're doing is possible. They've flooded the airwaves with misinformation. But I am here tonight to tell you the truth. This isn't just about technology. This is about the future of our planet. This is about the millions of people who need access to affordable, clean energy. This is about our children, our grandchildren, and the generations to come. Lily's hands were steady as she gripped the edge of the desk, but her words were fueled by the urgency of the moment. She had come too far to let this opportunity slip away. I know there are risks, she admitted, her voice softening just slightly. No system is perfect, especially not one of this scale. But we've worked tirelessly to ensure that this AI system is as secure, efficient, and transparent as possible. It's designed to be a tool for the people, not a corporate monopoly. Her gaze intensified as she delivered the final, most critical point. And if we don't move forward now, we will lose the chance to make a difference. The energy crisis is real. Climate change is real. And it's not waiting for anyone to catch up. The broadcast lasted an hour, but Lily knew that every second counted. She spoke with passion, conviction, and authenticity, qualities that had always been a part of her, but now they were magnified. As the broadcast ended and the cameras cut, there was a heavy silence in the room. The crew exchanged looks, some with smiles, others with a sense of cautious optimism. But for Lily, there was no time to relax. The real battle had just begun. Immediately after the broadcast, Lily's phone exploded with messages. News outlets were calling, social media was buzzing with reactions, both positive and negative. But there was something different this time. The narrative was shifting. For the first time in days, she saw a clear divide in the responses. People from all over the world were rallying behind her. Supporters were tweeting #RenewableFuture, sharing stories of their own struggles with unreliable power grids and fossil fuels. They were reaching out, offering help, offering ideas. They believed in what she was doing. But as expected, the backlash from the corporate world was swift. The energy giants didn't take kindly to Lily's call for a revolution. Their lobbyists were already flooding Washington, trying to push new regulations that would slow down or even halt her project. They had the power to change the game, but Lily had something they didn't, an army of passionate supporters, millions of people who believed in her vision. The next morning, Lily met with her team in the war room to assess the fallout. The live broadcast had ignited a firestorm, and they were just beginning to feel the heat. "We're seeing a lot of positive responses from the public," Zoe reported, looking at the data on her laptop. "There's a surge in support on social media, people are signing petitions, calling their representatives. They're demanding change." Elon nodded, but his face was grim. "The big energy companies won't let go without a fight. They'll use everything they have to discredit you. Be ready for more attacks. This is just the beginning." Lily wasn't surprised. She knew the road ahead would be even harder, but there was no turning back now. The people were behind her, and that was all that mattered. "We fight for them," Lily said, her voice firm. "We fight for the future." The room fell silent for a moment as everyone absorbed the gravity of her words. They weren't just building a new energy system, they were fighting for a new world. The aftermath of Lily's live broadcast was both exhilarating and terrifying. In the days following, her message spread like wildfire, igniting public passion and sparking heated debates across the globe. News outlets, both mainstream and independent, were filled with the polarizing response to her bold stance. Some called her a visionary, others labeled her reckless, but one thing was clear, the world was listening. Yet with every action came a counter-reaction. While supporters rallied behind her, the corporate giants, whose empire was threatened by the very existence of Lily's renewable energy system, began their counteroffensive. Lobbyists were deployed. Politicians, both local and national, came out in force to denounce her project. The backlash wasn't just about technology, it was a battle over control, the future of the planet versus the entrenched powers of the past. Lily had known this would happen, but nothing could truly prepare her for the scale of the war she was now in. Every day brought new challenges, new attacks. A smear campaign was launched against her. They claimed she was unstable, unpredictable, and unqualified to lead such a groundbreaking initiative. They even resorted to questioning her personal life, digging into her past, trying to discredit her at every turn. But Lily had anticipated this. She had expected the fight to get ugly. It was the price of progress. She sat in her office, her eyes fixed on a wall of screens displaying data, news reports, and live updates from her team. The media was relentless. The attacks on her credibility were hitting harder than she had anticipated, but she wasn't backing down. If anything, it only fueled her determination. "Lily, we've got more reports coming in," Zoe said, entering the room with a stack of papers in hand. She had been working non-stop, coordinating with analysts and security teams to stay ahead of the curve. "The smear campaigns are working. The polls are shifting. More people are doubting our system. But there's also a significant portion of the population that is now more supportive than ever." Lily nodded, her mind racing. "We need to keep the momentum going. I can't let them take us down with lies. We need facts. We need transparency. We need to show people that this is about more than just me, it's about them. About the future." Zoe agreed. "We need to double down on our outreach. Direct communication with the people. The more we give them the truth, the less power the media and the corporate giants have." "Exactly," Lily said, standing up and pacing. "We need to go on the offense. We can't just react to the attacks. We need to lead the charge. It's time to go beyond just the tech community. We need to speak to everyone. Make them understand why this is the last chance we have to save our planet from energy dependence." Elon, who had been quietly watching the interaction, spoke up. "What about the energy companies? Have we found out who's behind the corporate funding of the attacks?" Zoe tapped a few keys on her laptop, pulling up an encrypted report. "We're still tracing the money, but it's clear that the usual suspects are involved. A lot of these attacks are coming from the energy sector. They're using proxies to influence public opinion." Lily clenched her fists, feeling a surge of anger. These companies were terrified of losing their grip on the world's energy market, and they were willing to go to any lengths to destroy her project. But what they didn't realize was that their tactics were only uniting the people against them. "We'll find them," Lily said coldly. "We'll expose the ones behind the smear campaign, and we'll make sure the world knows exactly what they're trying to protect. They're not protecting the planet, they're protecting their profits. And that ends now." The next few weeks were an all-out war. Lily's team worked around the clock, doubling their efforts to fight back against the disinformation campaigns. Zoe and her team of hackers launched countermeasures, ensuring that every piece of information shared by the opposition was met with facts, data, and transparency. But the real breakthrough came when Lily's speech, her call to action during the live broadcast, began to resonate in a way they hadn't expected. Ordinary citizens across the globe took to the streets, demanding change, calling for energy independence, and pushing back against the corporate interests that had been controlling the world's power supply for far too long. It wasn't just activists or environmentalists anymore. It was mothers, fathers, teachers, farmers, students, people from all walks of life who had finally found a voice in Lily's message. And that voice was loud. Lily knew it was a pivotal moment. The tide was turning. She could feel it in the air, in the conversations happening around her. People were starting to take notice. The political pressure was mounting, and soon, the system would have no choice but to listen. But the corporate giants were not done fighting. In fact, they were preparing for their biggest move yet. One evening, as Lily and her team sat in their war room, they received an anonymous tip. It was a video, heavily encrypted, but once decrypted, it sent a chill down Lily's spine. The video was of a high-level meeting between executives from the largest energy companies in the world. They were discussing strategies to stop Lily's renewable energy project at all costs, strategies that included not only the continued smear campaign but also the potential to sabotage her system directly. They were talking about using everything from political leverage to direct financial warfare. But what made Lily's blood run cold was the final part of the video, a list of names, people within her own company, people she trusted, who were being paid off to compromise the system from the inside. Lily's heart pounded as she looked at the names. She knew some of them personally. They were people she had worked alongside, people she thought were allies. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. She had a mole in her own team. The very people she had trusted to help build the future were now working against her, motivated by greed and fear. Zoe was the first to break the silence. "What do we do now, Lily? We can't ignore this. This is bigger than anything we've faced so far." Lily took a deep breath. She had been preparing for this moment, though she had hoped it would never come. This was the tipping point, the moment where everything would either fall apart or be rebuilt stronger than ever. "I'll take care of this," Lily said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "But we can't wait for this to destroy us. We need to get ahead of this, and we need to do it fast." Lily's determination was unwavering, but she knew she needed to act carefully. The mole in her company could bring everything down. She would need to find the traitor, expose them, and make sure they couldn't do any more damage to her vision. But even as she set her plan in motion, she couldn't help but wonder, how many more hidden enemies were out there? Lily's mind raced as she stared at the list of names in front of her. The betrayal hit hard, people she'd considered friends, allies, and even mentors. Her initial instinct was to confront them head-on, but she quickly realized that acting on impulse would be disastrous. She had to be strategic, cautious. If she went in too quickly, she risked not only the success of her project but the safety of her entire team. She turned to Zoe, who was seated at the table with a grim expression. "We need to find out who's working against us before we make any moves. I can't afford to make the wrong decision. The stakes are too high." Zoe nodded, already pulling up data on her laptop. "I'll run a background check on everyone listed here. We'll have to keep things under wraps for now. If one of them is compromised, we need solid proof before we can take action." Lily couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that gnawed at her. These people had helped her build the foundation of her vision, but now, it felt like everything was on the verge of unraveling. The corporate giants were already doing everything they could to discredit her. Now, with sabotage happening within her own team, it felt like she was fighting on multiple fronts. But Lily couldn't afford to be weak. She couldn't let fear take hold. If she was going to succeed, she needed to stay calm, focused, and one step ahead. The days following the revelation of the mole were tense. Lily's team worked tirelessly to uncover who was leaking information to the opposition. They used encrypted channels, monitored communications, and analyzed every interaction. Lily had made it clear to everyone, no one was to leave the office until the traitor was found. Elon, ever the strategist, had taken a more subtle approach. "Sometimes, the best way to uncover the truth is to let people think they've won," he said one afternoon, sitting across from Lily in her office. "The mole will slip up eventually. They always do." Lily appreciated Elon's calm demeanor. It gave her the strength to keep pushing forward, even when the pressure was overwhelming. Over the next week, the team uncovered something even more unsettling. The mole wasn't just leaking information, they were actively sabotaging key parts of the system's development. Minor glitches, unexpected bugs, and unexplained system failures had been happening for weeks, and now it all made sense. Whoever was behind this had been working to undermine Lily's entire project from the inside. It's happening faster than I thought, Zoe said, her face pale as she reviewed the latest data. We found a backdoor into our system. Whoever's doing this has been inserting faulty code into the AI. If we don't fix it soon, the whole system could fail. Lily's pulse quickened. How long do we have? At most, a few days. Maybe less. Every second counted. Lily had no choice but to act, and she had to do it fast. They needed to find the mole and stop them before they could do irreparable damage. The team worked in overdrive, their days a blur of late-night meetings, code reviews, and frantic troubleshooting. But despite their best efforts, the mole remained elusive. It was as if they were always one step ahead. That was until one evening, when a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Zoe had been reviewing the company's internal security logs when she noticed something strange. "Wait a second," she muttered, her finger tracing a particular line of code. This wasn't here before. It was a tiny alteration, but enough to raise suspicion. A pattern began to emerge, and Zoe realized that someone had been using a specific account to make changes to the code. It was a developer account, but one that had been inactive for months. Until recently. "This is it," Zoe said, excitement in her voice. "We've got a trace on the mole's movements. They've been using this account to make the changes. If we dig deeper, we can find out who has access to it." Lily's heart raced. "Do it. Get me everything you can on that account." By the end of the night, Zoe had traced the account back to a developer who had been with the company since the early days. His name was Noah Marshall, a brilliant coder who had been an integral part of the project's early development. But Lily hadn't seen him much lately. He had been working remotely for the past few months, claiming personal reasons for his absence. Now, it seemed clear, Noah was the mole. Lily felt a pang of disappointment. Noah had been one of her original team members. They had worked late nights together, brainstorming ideas and pushing the boundaries of what they could achieve. To think that he could be the one sabotaging everything was almost too much to bear. "We need to bring him in," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Now." The next morning, Lily, Zoe, and a few trusted members of the team prepared to confront Noah. They had to be careful. Noah was smart, he would know if they came at him too aggressively. They couldn't risk him getting away, especially now that they knew how much damage he had already caused. Elon, as always, had a level-headed approach. "We'll make him think we know less than we do," he said, offering a grim smile. "We'll use his own pride against him. He'll think he's got the upper hand, but in reality, we'll have him cornered." They arranged a meeting with Noah under the guise of discussing some project updates. It was a strategy that would keep him off guard while they executed their plan. When Noah arrived at the conference room, he was cool and collected, his usual self. But Lily could see the subtle signs, the nervousness in his eyes, the slight hesitation in his movements. He knew something was off, but he wasn't ready to give up just yet. The conversation started innocuously enough, with updates on the system's progress and some minor technical issues. But as they continued, Zoe subtly slipped in a mention of the recent data breaches and irregularities in the code. Noah's eyes flickered for a moment, but he quickly regained his composure. "It's probably just a glitch," he said, brushing it off with a casual tone. "These things happen. I'm sure it's nothing." Lily studied him carefully. He was playing his part well, but Lily wasn't fooled. She could feel the tension in the room, the unease hanging in the air. Then, Zoe dropped the bombshell. "Actually, Noah," she said, her voice steady, "we've traced the recent disruptions back to your account. We know you've been accessing the system and making unauthorized changes." Noah's face froze. For a split second, he looked as if he might bolt, but instead, he leaned back in his chair and gave a nervous laugh. "You can't be serious." "I am," Lily said, her voice cold and unyielding. "We have all the evidence we need." Noah's bravado crumbled, and he sat there, staring at them, realizing there was no way out. His eyes flickered to the door, but it was too late. The walls had closed in on him. "Why, Noah?" Lily asked quietly. "Why would you do this?" For a long moment, he didn't answer. But then, finally, he spoke. "They promised me everything. Power. Wealth. Influence. All I had to do was sabotage your project. It seemed like the easy way out. They told me you'd never succeed. They told me you were just a dreamer, and that there was no place in the world for your ideas." Lily's heart sank. She had known that the corporate giants would stop at nothing, but to hear it from someone she once considered a friend made it feel all the more personal. "I never wanted to believe it," Noah continued, his voice barely a whisper. "But the temptation, it was too much. I thought I could keep my hands clean. I thought I could walk away when it was done." Lily stood up, her resolve hardening. "You made a choice, Noah. And now, you'll have to live with the consequences." With Noah exposed, the team quickly moved to ensure he couldn't do any more damage. His access to the system was revoked, and security measures were tightened. But the damage was done. Noah's actions had set them back weeks, and the trust that had been broken would take much longer to rebuild. But for Lily, there was no time to dwell on the betrayal. She had bigger battles ahead. The world had shifted beneath Lily's feet. Betrayal had struck her from within, and now the task of rebuilding trust was more daunting than ever. Noah Marshall, the mole she once considered a friend, was out of the picture. Yet, his actions had caused significant delays and left her team shaken. With every move they made, it felt like the clock was ticking faster. Time was no longer a luxury they could afford. The battle for the future of energy and the planet had reached its boiling point. The corporate giants had redoubled their efforts. They weren't just using covert sabotage anymore, they were fighting her in the public eye. They had leveraged every form of media to spread misinformation, distorting the facts about her renewable energy project and painting her as a reckless visionary. But Lily, ever resilient, wasn't backing down. Now, she faced the toughest challenge yet: how to make her vision a reality in the face of this corporate onslaught, a global audience filled with doubt, and a fractured team. Lily stood in the middle of her office, watching as her team worked tirelessly to patch up the damage done by Noah and the external sabotage. The cracks were starting to show: glitches in the AI, system failures, and delays in deployment that seemed to compound by the hour. But amidst the chaos, one thing became clear to her: she couldn't afford to fight the giants on all fronts anymore. She needed to go straight to the heart of the matter. "Zoe," Lily called out to her, "we need to go big. We need to take this fight to the world. If we're going to win, we need the people behind us, truly behind us. And that means showing them exactly what's at stake." Zoe looked up from her screen, her eyes tired but sharp. "What do you have in mind?" Lily's gaze hardened with resolve. "We're going to take a direct approach. A worldwide broadcast, a transparent look at what's really happening. No more secrets. I want the world to see the damage the corporate powers are trying to do, but more importantly, I want them to see what's at stake if we fail." Zoe nodded, sensing the urgency. "A global broadcast. We'll need every bit of technology and every channel we can access. It's going to be risky." "We don't have a choice," Lily said. "We're past the point of playing by the rules. They're using their influence to sway the public, and now we have to use ours to show them the truth." The team sprang into action. Lily's idea was ambitious, even reckless, but it was the kind of bold move that had always set her apart. This time, she wasn't just going to play the game. She was going to change the rules. Days passed in a blur as the team set everything into motion. They reached out to influencers, independent media outlets, and even social platforms, mobilizing resources to get their message out to as many people as possible. The broadcast was scheduled for a primetime slot, a moment when millions of viewers around the world would be watching. Lily's face would be everywhere, and she was prepared to bear it all. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The corporate giants would be watching, and they weren't going to let her pull this off without a fight. But Lily was no longer scared of them. She was ready. As the day of the broadcast approached, Lily found herself standing in front of a large mirror in the dressing room, adjusting her jacket. She didn't look at herself the way she used to, trying to pull together a perfect image. Now, it was about something bigger. She was about to stand in front of the world and reveal the truth. "Are you ready?" Zoe asked, her voice coming through the intercom, pulling Lily from her thoughts. Lily took a deep breath. "I don't think I've ever been more ready." The broadcast began, and Lily appeared on the screen, her face lit by the soft glow of the studio lights. Her eyes were clear, focused, and filled with a quiet determination. She spoke directly into the camera, her words measured and powerful. "Good evening, world," she began, her voice calm yet commanding. "You've heard the stories. You've seen the headlines. But what you haven't seen is the truth behind the renewable energy revolution I'm trying to bring to life." For the next hour, Lily laid everything out, no holds barred. She explained the science behind her energy system, the promise it held for a sustainable future, and the ways in which her team had worked tirelessly to develop it. She shared the hurdles they had overcome, the sleepless nights, and the sacrifices they had made. But she also revealed the shadow that had been hanging over them, the corporate powers that were working tirelessly to undermine her efforts. She didn't shy away from naming names. The energy companies, the lobbyists, the politicians who had been bought off, all of them were exposed for the world to see. Lily's transparency was a gamble, but it was one she had no choice but to take. Then came the emotional part of the broadcast. Lily spoke directly to the millions watching, her voice cracking with raw emotion. "This is bigger than just technology," she said, her eyes glistening. "This is about our future, about the planet we leave behind for the next generation. We can't afford to let fear and greed dictate the course of our lives anymore. The time for change is now. And if you believe in a future where our children can breathe clean air and live in harmony with nature, then you have a role to play in making this happen." Her words were a call to arms, a plea for unity in the face of unprecedented adversity. She didn't just want people to support her project, she wanted them to take action, to stand up and demand the future they deserved. The broadcast ended with a simple but powerful message. This is our fight. This is your fight. And together, we can change the world. As soon as the broadcast ended, social media exploded. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, every platform was flooded with comments, hashtags, and trending topics. Supporters were mobilizing in a way they hadn't before. They were angry, passionate, and inspired. The corporate giants who had once held all the power were beginning to feel the pressure. But it wasn't just the supporters who took notice. The political powers that had previously been on the sidelines were now speaking out. Some were skeptical, others were cautious, but more and more were beginning to see the potential of Lily's vision. There was a ripple effect happening, one that Lily had hoped for but had never dared to dream would come so quickly. For the first time, Lily felt as if the momentum was truly shifting in her favor. Yet, the battle was far from over. The corporate giants weren't going to take this lying down. They had the resources to retaliate, and Lily knew that the next few days would be critical. She could feel the storm gathering on the horizon. But for now, Lily allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. She had done what she set out to do, she had shown the world the truth. The rest, she knew, was just a matter of time. The days after Lily's broadcast felt like a whirlwind. The world had erupted in response to her call for change, and the groundswell of support was undeniable. People from all corners of the globe were talking about her vision, rallying behind the fight for a cleaner, sustainable future. The hashtags were everywhere, and people were sharing their own stories of environmental destruction, of how they too were tired of corporate greed taking precedence over the planet. But the giants didn't sit idly by. No, they retaliated with a ferocity that made Lily's heart race. Legal teams, smear campaigns, and public relations wars, they pulled out all the stops. Articles filled with misinformation were published, trying to discredit her, her project, and even her character. Corporate-backed politicians began pushing for policies that could undermine her efforts, claiming that Lily's renewable energy systems were untested, untrustworthy, and too risky for the global economy. Lily knew the battle was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, Lily spent countless hours working alongside her team to combat the media attacks and political pressure. They brought in top-tier legal experts to fight the lawsuits and investigations that the corporate giants were pushing against her. They worked day and night, refining the technology to prove the doubters wrong, showing the world that her renewable energy systems were more than just a dream, they were the future. Elon Musk, who had become a close advisor throughout this journey, remained a steady presence by her side. He knew better than anyone how hard the opposition could strike when it felt threatened. But he also knew that the world was changing. It was time for new ideas, for brave thinkers to lead the way. The truth is on our side, Lily, Elon told her one evening, as they sat in her office, watching the latest round of attacks against her unfold on the news. The people are ready. They just need to see that we're not backing down. You've given them something to believe in. Lily nodded, her mind already working through the next steps. But they're still attacking us from all sides. We need something to turn the tide, something big. Elon smiled, leaning back in his chair. Something big? I think I've got just the thing. What followed was nothing short of revolutionary. Elon, using his vast network, helped Lily organize a global event that would showcase the potential of her energy system in a way that no one could deny. The plan was simple, yet profound, an entirely self-sustained city. A demonstration of what the future could look like if Lily's technology were adopted worldwide. This city would run entirely on her renewable energy systems, powered by solar, wind, and advanced AI-driven technologies that could optimize energy usage. It would be a live, real-world example of her vision in action. The event, dubbed The Future Now, was to take place in a remote area that had previously been left to deteriorate due to environmental neglect. With the help of the team, Lily would bring life back to this place, showing the world that not only could her technology work, it could thrive in the most challenging conditions. As the date of the event drew closer, the media buzzed with excitement. People from all over the world signed up to watch the event online, and the social media campaigns surrounding the reveal reached millions of people. The day of the event arrived, and Lily stood at the center of the city, now fully powered by her renewable systems. She watched as cameras flashed, reporters swarmed, and the global audience tuned in. This was it. This was her chance to show the world that a new future was possible, that the change she had fought for was within reach. I know this city doesn't look like much right now, Lily said into the microphone, addressing the crowd. But what you see before you is the future. This is proof that we don't have to wait for the world to change, we can make it change today. Together, we have the power to rewrite the rules, to create a world where our energy is clean, efficient, and sustainable. The crowd erupted into applause, and the cameras panned to show the solar panels, wind turbines, and state-of-the-art technology working flawlessly, powering homes, businesses, and public spaces. For the first time, the world was seeing the future she had dreamed of. And it wasn't just a dream anymore. It was real. But the greatest victory was yet to come. Back in the control room, Zoe was monitoring the data coming in from the event. It was flawless, everything was working as it should. No glitches, no failures, no sabotage. The project had come to life, and it was thriving. But then, Zoe's eyes widened as she saw something else on her screen. The global media, fueled by the viral success of the event, began to shift. The corporate giants, who had been pushing hard against her, were now backing off. They realized that they had underestimated Lily and her vision. What had once seemed like a fool's errand had now become an undeniable reality. Suddenly, Zoe turned to Lily, her face a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "Lily, we're trending. Not just the event, but you. The entire world is talking about you. The corporate giants are backing down. They're losing power." Lily couldn't help but smile, her heart swelling with relief. "Is it really happening?" Zoe nodded. "It's happening. This is it." The media slowly began to cover Lily's work with a different tone. What was once skepticism had turned into fascination. News outlets were reporting on the breakthrough, and international governments were reaching out, eager to discuss how they could integrate Lily's technology into their own country's energy infrastructure. The corporate giants were no longer the omnipotent force they once were. Their efforts to sabotage her had only fueled the fire that burned brighter with each passing day. The final victory, however, was when world leaders gathered in a high-level conference to discuss the future of renewable energy. They acknowledged Lily's work, praised her for her persistence, and announced major partnerships to implement her energy systems on a global scale. Her dream had come true. Lily stood before the gathering of global leaders, her heart pounding as she realized the full magnitude of what had just happened. The fight had been long, filled with hurdles and setbacks. But now, standing here, it all felt worth it. She stepped up to the podium, ready to speak. Her voice was steady, calm, and filled with the certainty of someone who knew that this was just the beginning. "We've won today, but this is not the end," she began. "The real work begins now. We are not just building a sustainable future for ourselves, we are building it for future generations. Together, we've proven that change is not only possible, it is inevitable. This is our legacy." As the applause echoed around the room, Lily allowed herself a rare moment of peace. She had done it. She had faced the giants, the doubters, and the obstacles. And she had won. The future was theirs. The future was now. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?